Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the Disability Service webinar on exam accommodations. Declan Reilly is my name, and my colleagues Eithne Coleman and Andrew Costello are going to present some tips and guidelines on preparation for exams. So we'll just go on to the content session there. So in a moment, I'm going to introduce a student from the Ability Co-op and to talk about the today's session, and then I'm going to continue on just for a few minutes to talk about some main points, an overview of reasonable accommodations, talk about the exam types, and some take-home tips, and a little bit around if you encounter any troubles, what to do there. And then my colleague Andrew Costello will speak about technology issues, and my colleague Eithne Coleman will talk about some OT advice and tips as well. So first, I'm going to introduce you to Rafi. So he's from the co-op. He's going to speak to you a little bit about today's session as well. Hi, Rafi.
So hi everyone, my name is Rafi Patson. I'm one of the representatives from the Ability Co-op. Just a little bit about the Ability Co-op. So the Ability Co-op is a cooperative of students with disabilities. We're always looking for new people, and we try and do stuff like this. So we help out the disability service. We run campaigns trying to increase awareness. We do loads of interesting stuff. So if you have any interest, please get in contact with us via Facebook. The biggest thing I would say going into the session as a student with disabilities is take in as much as you can. We're recording it, so you'll get to look over it again. But these people really do know the best, how to get the best, how we can do the best in our exams. My number one tip would be preparation. It's all about the preparation for any exam, making sure you get enough sleep, making sure you get enough revision, making sure you're fully prepared for your exams, especially as most of the structures, these exams are longer style exams. The preparation is so key. But best of luck with your exams, and please enjoy the presentation. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Rafi. So just going to move on to the main points. So really, the high level stuff is that you should start off obviously with checking your exam timetable. So there's up on the academic registry webpage under timetables and exams, there's a full list of all the module exams for January, and the same location there. Anyone who's preparing for SCOLs as well, there'll be SCOLs published in the same location as well. And from speaking to academic registry, I know the intention was to put some individual timetables up under my exams in the student portal. I have checked a few to see if they're up yet, and I haven't been able to see any, but I believe it's the intention that for some exams that will be posted up there. I do know there's an issue with timetabling longer exams like 24 or 48 hours up on that timetable, so that's why they've just produced the longer PDF. So if you do have any questions about your exam timetable or the modules or other course issues, you should contact your school or your department or your tutor. And then separately, in relation to exam accommodations or disability issues in general that might affect your exams, you can check what your exam accommodations are on your LENS report. And if you have any queries about those or other related matters, you do contact us. Either contact your disability officer directly, or you can just email askds@tcd.ie. So those really are the main points, I suppose, to start off in terms of exam preparations. And an overview then of the most basic reasonable accommodations. Most students with reasonable accommodations will have extra time. Usually that's 10 minutes per hour. And that will and should apply to all timed assessments in January and in SCOLs as well. So a 1 hour exam has an extra 10 minutes. And then so on and so on, right up to 24 or 48 hours and longer. Some of the exams are even longer than that. We're not anticipating that you should need or use all of that additional time, but what it does is it does make it a little bit easier to plan and manage your time if you have later submission times, really. There will be the facility to use a sticker for those of you who have that facility on your LENS report. It indicates this marking guidelines apply, and that's an electronic sticker which I'll be sending out to everyone who has that accommodation via email. I send it out a couple of times, and you can just keep that on your desktop and just apply it to all your exam submissions. Obviously, if you've got use of computer, then that simply transfers to using your own PC, and Andrew will talk to you more about that in a few minutes. And similarly, with any specialized software, Dragon or anything, read aloud software, you'll be using your own machines for that. And if there are any issues, contact us, and also Andrew will mention some of those issues as well in his presentation. As far as I'm aware, all exams will be provided via Blackboard. That's my understanding. So that's how it's going to function. The exam timetable, the one I mentioned on PDF, basically there's two types of exams. There's real-time online exams, which vary from 1.5 hours up to 3 hours. So there's a good few of those, but they're certainly in the minority. The vast majority of exams are called take-home exams, and they vary from 4 hours up to, in some cases, 192 hours. However, most of those take-home exams are either 24 or 48 hours. So really what that is essentially they're kind of assessments, but they come with all the kind of credits and the I suppose the additional pressure of an exam timetable, because it's in an exam week and they're all put together. But they are really assessments in the sense that they're open book, and you're not in exam conditions. You don't have an invigilator over your shoulder. That you have a lot of time to prepare for in advance, and also you know, they're open book, so you can obviously check your work as you're doing it and before you submit it. So for most of those exams, which are the longer ones, the 24 hours or more, I would encourage you to consider the following tips. And this really goes back to what Rafi was suggesting. Really, it's all around preparation. So instead of thinking it as the traditional exam where you study and hope that you're relying on your memory then when you attend the exam venue, because you've no access to resources other than what you can recall. Really, the exam timetable itself in January is going to give you an opportunity to demonstrate what you have prepared in advance. So really the top tip really is around do prepare in advance for all your take-home exams. And I know that's not all students and all exams, but it's the vast majority of exams, and students will have these take-home exams over quite long periods of time. So really, with that in mind, that gives you a huge advantage over the more traditional exam timetable, in the sense that you have the opportunity to, before the actual, before you get your exam questions, you have the opportunity to summarize all your content in your own words. And the thing is, you can pre-prepare a lot of material. Most course content is best communicated by a list of headings with associated ideas together that you need to identify these and have them ready to expand on to suit the questions. So that's something that you can do in your study time and in your preparation time. So on the day of the exam, when it starts, you have all that material ready at your disposal to start using to answer the question. So all you need to do then in the exam is, for each exam, carefully follow the guidance or requirements provided by the lecturer. And I know some lecturers are providing quite a lot of guidance, things like word count and style and how they want it presented. And then on the day of the exam, carefully read the questions and make a plan for how you're going to structure your answers. And the important thing really is, and this will be emphasized again throughout the rest of the session, is to pace yourself and to take breaks, and don't cut back on any sleep or other necessities. So you're going to get marks really, and you're going to get graded for the quality of your preparation really, and how the overall quality of the answer addresses the question. And you're not going to improve on that in the 6th or 7th or 8th hour if you haven't already got it fairly accurate in the first 2 or 3 hours. So that's going to really all come down to your preparation. And the idea is to make yourself have the energy and the pace and the concentration to get through a full week of assessments. So just move on then to the next one then. So the main point then, if trouble does arise, is that you may have trouble, for example, in the exam, either accessing the questions themselves or in submitting them, and you should contact your school or department about that. And if you miss an exam or you're unable to complete an exam, you should contact your tutor. And if you have any trouble with reasonable accommodations or a disability issue does impact on you in the exam, you can also contact the disability service. And you can do that by email, or there's also a mobile number you can do that. You can also contact directly the disability officer. So that's it. I'm going to now hand you over to Andrew, who's next up.
Thank you. I'm just going to talk about today just regarding the technology backend regarding exams. As majority of students will be using their own technology when it comes to using exams, and they're sitting at home remotely, it can be a stressful time to ensure that your technology is set up correctly, and what to do in the cases of it going wrong, and etc., which there are variables, especially due to your reliance on your own broadband, etc. So it might sound easy enough, but I said taking on I suppose taking on again a remote exam can be a different scenario from what you have done previously when you've sat in an exam hall. It might be found again very simple to set up a computer, switch it on, and start doing an exam. But something that we really should be looking at in advance of the exam to ensure that you're set up correctly, and don't take the "it will be all right" on the night approach all the way through. Taking that approach obviously would just lead to more stress for yourself on the day of the exam, especially and time lost if you're under a time constraint. So these simple little tasks, I said, as it sounds easy, might sound easy, but it's something that we should really be aware of when it comes to taking the timed exam using your own equipment. That obviously straightforward enough. Don't leave it to the last minute. Whilst you try to be prepared for what's going to come up, ensuring that your machine is switched on, it's plugged in. Those simple things all the way through. Ensure you even do a quick test of your computer regarding its use of Microsoft Word or any platform that you wish to use. Make sure it's running and performing as it should be all the way through. Ensure your battery is inserted at all time, as in the power point of your battery. Don't rely on your battery that's inserted onto the back of your laptop, even if it's a new laptop, etc., etc. Always have it plugged into the mains. Again, it sounds a straightforward, simple enough a scenario, but in the case of your machine running out of power, or you being concentrated on the exam and then the machine powering itself off, and trying to recover that data can be more difficult all the way through. Does your machine ever crash? Is this machine reliable? Those are the sort of questions that you need to ask yourself before starting off a timed exam, because coming to college and putting that case forward after the exam is more difficult to resolve. So if you're using an inferior machine that you know is unreliable, the question mark is for yourself: do you wish to set your exam using that approach? If not, please let us know. Please get in touch with us so we can flag these in advance, and maybe provide some assistance in this area all the way through. If there's another machine in the house, there are other routes you can take as well all the way through. Obviously, Office, which is the main tool for editing documents or creating documentation for most students anyway, is available for free for you if you're not already have it installed on your computer. By browsing to office.tcd.ie all the way through, you can download a copy of Office 365 onto your computer, or you can also use it in the cloud if your machine is reliable and you have a reliable broadband, as it's backing up there correctly all the time all the way through, and there's no data will be lost using the cloud approach as well, as it's saving as you type all the way through. IT services have provided information on how to install it on the second link there. So if you wish to find out. If you haven't got Office installed on your computer already, just follow the link there and they'll be able to assist you in installing it per se, and the steps required. But it's free for you to use. You pay for it in advance via your college subscription. Valuable tools in there, not just for exams, obviously as external exams. So, you know, make use of it as my advice to you as such all the way through. So again, installing Office for exams just ensures that you have the latest version of it on your computer with the functionality that can benefit you again regarding your exams. Grammarly. Grammarly is a tool available for students registered with our service. If you have not got it installed and you feel that your spelling and grammar is poor and it hasn't been already installed on your machine, you can mail it to myself at acostello@tcd.ie or going to askds, that's all one word, askds@tcd.ie, and we'll be able to set you up with giving you access to this valuable resource. Obviously, the tool, if you haven't, if you're not aware of what it did before, literally just spells you. It'll assist you with your documentation, ensuring that it's avoiding spelling, grammar, punctuation mistakes, and plagiarism as well. If you felt that was an issue for you to resolve, so it's quite a simple tool to use. It does the work for you in the background and allows you to make changes to the document. Essentially, it's a similar tool to what the spell checker on Microsoft Word on, but has a lot more functionality in that and drives a lot deeper into your documentation to ensure that it's you know, error-free essentially when it comes to submitting work all the way through. The read aloud function is also a kind of useful tool for people to be aware of when it comes to proofing work. All the way through. Again, this is available to you on Office 365. Under the review tab there, there's an option called read aloud. And as I said, essentially what it will do, it will read aloud your documentation back to you all the way through to make sure it sounds the way that you've typed it. It's a good way of proofing a document for yourself to ensure that it flows the way that your answer should feel, or the way that you feel that you've typed it all the way through. So it's free for you to use there. Again, just by clicking on review and clicking read aloud, will just read back any text that you've entered into your Word document. That goes for just not exams but assignment work as well. Dictate is also a useful tool for you to use it's essentially using your voice to allow you to dictate in an answer. So if you had an idea in your head or a sentence in your head or a thought process in your head, but found that difficult getting started and getting that down on the page, you could click dictate, which is on the toolbar there, on the home toolbar on the far right corner called dictate, and that will talk back to you what you are talking into the computer. Now, there's a few sides that be aware of. It's never going to be 100% correct, so don't expect it to be a word perfect translation of what you say. Depending on your microphone and how close you are to your computer, how quickly you're speaking into the document as well, you know, it'll be around 90%, 85–90% accurate all the way through. But it's a quicker way to get down an answer or get down a structure of an answer in draft format, to allow you then to complete your essay with the time you saved in a useful tool. Recommend at least looking at it in advance of exams. As I said, for all these tools, please don't try them on the day of the exam. Check them out in advance so you can see the benefits of them, and you can make the decision if you would like to use them or not all the way through. But they're all quite easy to adapt and use all the way through. Mind mapping tools as well are tools that obviously you can you can brainstorm out an idea before you start talking or typing. So essentially, before you start creating your answer to your exam question, you could mind map it out using a free tool called Mindview, which is available from the link there all the way through. It allows you to see a pictorial version of all the kind of areas that you want to put into your answer before you start typing or writing or typing them out per se all the way through. You know, it saves you spending an inordinate amount of time in one area of your answer, and it gives you a good overview to see, are you answering the question as it's been asked of you all the way through. So Mindview is also a nice tool that we could use. Say if you're having to write it out, and again, a lot of students would use a paper format and spider a diagram out. It's essentially a simpler or a more a greater mind mapping tool. So instead of having to write it out, you're typing it out. You can add more detail to it, etc., etc. Add more comments to it. Use picture or use colors to symbolize certain areas of your answer, so you can plan it out, obviously against the time that you've been allowed to answer the question. IT services also put information up there over the summer for the previous exams. I think it's already up there as well regarding taking or accessing your exam and submitting your exam. So if you have information regarding that area there, you can have a look at that stuff as well. As I said, try to run a mock exam with some of the tools that I've spoken about there previously. If you need help, you can get contact with myself to see where the issues are with it all the way through, or where you'd like assistance. But some of that question, just test yourself on maybe a mock 1 question to see how the technology works for you. Give yourself a break and a rest and eating in between certain types of exam.
Thank you very much, Andrew, for that. So hi everyone, my name is Eithne. I am an Occupational Therapist and Disability Officer with the Disability Service. And I'm very much involved with the setup of exam venues for students with disabilities, and also helping students set up effective study and relaxation spaces at home and in college. So the last couple of months in college has been very different to any previously, both in terms of the format, but also in terms of your environment and exam venue. So you may be used to completing exams in the RDS or in other venues on campus over a few hours duration, studying in the college library in the company of your friends. However, we are now all working in different settings over the coming weeks and completing assessments ranging from hours to several days at a time, studying from our bedroom or confined spaces within our house or our apartment. And we may have limited spaces available in the house for exams and for study as well. So we're just going to touch on this today and support you to the best of our ability to use that environment to the best way possible for your exams and study. So just to note as well, if you can't hear me, just to check your computer volume settings. So this should be on the bottom right hand screen of your window, or on the top right of your Mac as well. And feel free to ask any questions throughout as well. So just a summary of today's or this part of the session as well. So what we're going to be covering is we're going to be looking at our environment and what's involved in that environment. So that'll be split up into 3 different sections: a physical environment, virtual environment, social environment, and then we'll just touch on general tips on managing your environment within a home, your home space, and we'll also be just talking about time management briefly as well. So what makes up our environment? So for the purpose of today's session, we'll just be focusing on those 3 main areas: the physical, virtual, and social environment. So setting up your exam and study environment to begin with. So physical environment. So this will include the auditory environment and visual environment. So this will include workspace, noise, light, clutter. And then moving on to the virtual environment then, so that'll be managing distractions such as email, news, social media outlets as well. And then finally onto the social environment, so managing interactions with we'll go back to there, managing our interactions with our family, housemates, friends and lecturers as well. So how do we best work? So a good place to start with this would be to reflect upon study and exam environment and how we work best in those environments. So we're trying to replicate that ideal environment, that exam and study environment. So questions that might be good to ask yourself would be: have you decided where you're going to be completing your exams or study at this point? And is it worth kind of coming to that decision at this time? Is the only or best option for both? What is the only or best option for both of these tasks also as well? So covering the basics then within physical environment. So when considering this, we try to pick an area at home in which there is a table or a desk and a chair. If you're living in rented accommodation or cannot find a suitable space in your house, try to create a separate workspace within your room, which is not ideally not on your bed. This creates a boundary between that study and rest environment as well. So consider the tidiness of your workspace. Is it cluttered with papers, books, or items not related to study, such as crockery, makeup, clothes, or other items? Allow 5 to 10 minutes, ideally each day, after you've finished your work to tidy your space. And this will ensure it stays clutter-free. So many of you will be doing open book exams as well, so consider using files for your notes and having those close to hand. And then finally, moving on to ergonomics then. So Carita, the physio from College Health, she's done a very useful video on the Healthy Trinity webpage on how to set up a comfortable space at home. So if you have just even a couple of minutes during your week to watch this, I would highly encourage you to do so. It can be a really useful tip to ensure you maintain concentration and focus while sat at your desk. So the physical environment then. So it's important to have a look at your lighting within your space. If you are easily distracted, if you require kind of low lighting or good lighting, if you would position yourself beside a window, for example, if you require good lighting, if you would rather kind of dark spaces to allow a little bit of lighting with close to your laptop and close to your notes areas, with lighting available as well as ideally. And to think about as well the space that you have on the desk as well, and how this is set up for your exam as well, and to only have essential items basically on your desk space. So auditory then, so this is also part of the physical environment. So we appreciate that levels of noise at home are not anywhere near as controlled as those that are in your regular, say, RDS or exam location. Or within the library as well, due to other family members taking on the space or having to work from home, or even having other housemates going about their day-to-day business. So a few tips then to help with this would be to think about how you ideally work again. So in relation to the auditory, are you easily distracted by noise? If possible, use a room away from the kitchen and common seating areas if you are easily distracted. And try to use headphones or earphones or earplugs to try and block out that noise, particularly at busy times throughout the day as well. If you find it helpful to listen to instrumental music or white noise or nature sounds, this can also be helpful to block out that background noise. So there's a couple of different platforms that you can find this on as well, like Spotify, for example, so even music for concentration, things like that. You can find many playlists on those on Spotify. YouTube also have many different playlists as well. The Relax Daily channel is a good example of that. And also apps like Relaxio or a Soft Murmur. They can all be really helpful when you're looking at your auditory environment. Then moving on to the virtual environment then. So you may have had a great physical setup for your exam and study locations. However, it might be quite difficult to manage distractions within our virtual environments, such as WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or Snapchat. So to help with this, consider only checking your phone or emails or any kind of news outlets at designated times during the day, and ideally outside of exam times as well. Try different media or app blockers such as Cold Turkey or Freedom. These allow you to block certain apps and websites for certain periods of the time, and you can actually create a bit of an alarm or a clock on that particular blockage as well. Because we generally can't depend on our own willpower, unfortunately, not to be checking Instagram throughout the day and checking different news outlets and things like that as well. So it's really good to have that, the likes of Cold Turkey downloaded onto your phone to help with that. Moving on to our social environment then as well. So again, this is really quite important when it comes to our home environment, because you are surrounded by possibly housemates or family members as well. And we do appreciate that you'll be working at home for this time as well. So we appreciate as well the social aspect of college is very important to your learning. So a couple of different strategies then when thinking about our social environment would include speaking with your family or housemates and agreeing on some rules and quiet times not to be disturbed again during this time to help with your study, as well as making them aware of like important times such as online exams. So letting your family and friends know about these particular exam times and keep them in the loop with that as well. Try not to keep your phone again on your desk beside you if you are being contacted regularly by friends and family members. And try out, I think, some virtual study groups if you feel like you're feeling quite isolated during times leading up to the exam or even during the exam. A lot of students have reported back in recent weeks that they have been finding online study groups particularly helpful as well when preparing for exams. So a couple of useful tips then to help you manage your study and exam environment. Many people don't actually work well sitting in one place for a long period of time, so incorporating movement into your exam or schedule routine can be helpful. So try sitting on a gym ball, for example. Give yourself plenty of space to move around. Some people work well even with using the likes of a fidget toy while studying, like even a stress ball or a fidget spinner can be quite useful. Or try walking around while reciting facts or expressing different ideas to help with recalling information. Again, this is particularly relevant to kinesthetic learners. So just to finish this part of the session as well today, I just have a few additional tips as well to help you manage your exam environment. So this will include making sure that you have water in your exam space, preparing food or snacks in advance as well, so you don't have to take that time throughout the week to get those prepared. Wear comfortable clothing. Again, that can be quite helpful in an exam environment, and be mindful of the temperature. So when you're thinking of fatigue levels, when is it that you're most likely to feel tired, or what kind of temperatures are you most likely to feel tired in? Particularly warm temperatures that might cause drowsiness or fatigue as well. And then just in addition to that as well, setting up a clock or a timer, and again trying to replicate that real exam environment can be quite useful. And just in relation to time management tips then as well, so a lot of students are reporting that they're worried about that amount of time allocated for exams. Some exams ranging from the 1 hour to 100 hours in some cases as well. In a regular exam environment, you would sit in the RDS or alternative exam location, complete the exam, and then ideally return home to focus on study or other exams. So in these current circumstances, however, exams have changed, and in some cases require additional time to complete assignment-based exams or open book essay-style questions, as Declan was speaking about earlier on as well. So here's just a couple of additional tips to help manage your time during these exams as well. So that will include creating a balanced timetable, grading work. I know Declan spoke about that briefly as well, but working between the hours ideally of 9 to 5 p.m. That's what I would generally advise. So as to just ensure you are still getting enough time to rest in the evenings and re-energize. Grading work for assignments or essay-based questions can be useful as well during this time, allocating each hour or day to different parts of the essay or assignment. Ensuring you're not working until all hours, so having a 24-hour period to complete an exam does not mean that you should be taking that whole 24 hours to complete, and in some cases the exam will need to be completed within a certain time frame in that 24 hours. So for example, once opened, the exam once it begins, the time will start, and you might only have a 1 hour period to complete that as well. So make sure that you're very familiar with all of these details before going into an exam. And also just to pick a reasonable hour as well in the day to complete when you're energized and ideally fairly alert as well. So a lot of students report that this might be the morning time, for example. Balance that workload as well for each subject. So it's best not to focus on one particular assignment or one particular essay because just for the reason that it's been allocated the most amount of time. Ideally, you'd like to be grading that over each module as they have various different exam formats. But just take your time as well to prepare for exam week, to plan out your study and exam schedule to ensure that you are giving them each of those modules in equal amount of time. And that's everything from me today. So I'll just stop sharing my screen there for 2 seconds.
That's great. Thanks, Eithne. So I'm just going to wrap up now. This video has been recorded, so we'll be able to put it up live shortly. And the main points really are: do put in the preparation, try and follow the guidelines, and there is support available. And if trouble arises, please do contact the relevant areas, either your department, your tutor, or ourselves. And we just want to wish you the best of luck. And do use the supports and contact us if you need anything. All right. Thanks very much and take care. Bye-bye.